The alien warships floated in the darkness of space, their silver hulls glowing faintly in the light of a distant sun. They were part of the Zarath Dominion's pride, the first assault armada. Thousands of ships stood ready, arranged in perfect battle formation. The commanders had fought dozens of wars across the galaxy. They had crushed empires, enslaved planets, and wiped out entire species. They believed no one could stop them. But that night, something felt different. Captain Vareth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Zarath Glory. He looked at the stars on the holo map, watching as a strange signal appeared on the edge of their sensor range. It was small at first, almost nothing, a single dot in the void. His officers whispered to each other, could it be pirates? A lost freighter? Then the signal grew stronger. One of his lieutenants looked up from the console. Sir, the readings are unusual. I don't think this is any ship we've seen before. Vareth frowned. What do you mean unusual? The officer swallowed. It's human, sir. For a moment, the bridge went silent. Humans. The name carried a strange weight. The Dominion had heard of them, but never fought them directly. They were a young species, not even 1,000 years in space travel. The Dominion had dismissed them as weak, too far away to be a threat. But in recent years, strange reports had come in. Fleets destroyed without survivors. Outposts vanishing in seconds. Every rumor ended the same way. It was the humans. Vareth straightened. One fleet? Against us? Yes, sir. Only one. A ripple of laughter went through the crew. The first assault armada had over 1,000 ships. Against that, one human fleet would be nothing. Or so they thought. The signal grew clearer, and soon the humans came into view. At first, they looked like shadows, black shapes against the stars. Then the light of the nearby sun hit their hulls, and the alien crew saw something they had never seen before. The ships were huge, larger than anything the Dominion had built. They were shaped like predators, sharp and sleek, with armor that seemed to drink in light. Along their sides, strange glowing lines pulsed like veins of fire. Vareth felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. These ships did not look like explorers. They looked like weapons. The human fleet moved in total silence. No radio calls, no demands, no warnings. Just a slow, steady approach, as if they already knew the battle was over. On the human flagship Orion's Wrath, Admiral Kale stood at the main viewport. His face was calm, his eyes cold. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet precision. No one shouted. No one hesitated. This was not a desperate fight. This was execution. Range? Kale asked. 30,000 kilometers, his tactical officer replied. Lock weapons. Full spread. No survivors. The order was given without emotion. On the human ships, massive weapon bays opened, revealing rows of rail cannons, missile, pods, and something stranger, long, glowing lances of energy that hummed like caged storms. Back on the Zarath Glory, Vareth was trying to keep his voice steady. All ships, prepare for attack. Target the lead vessel. The Dominion ships turned their guns toward the humans. Lasers charged, missile racks primed. Thousands of weapon systems lit up the darkness. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The alien crews expected the humans to flinch, to evade, maybe even to flee. But the human fleet didn't move. It kept coming. Sir, they're charging something, the sensor officer said. I've never seen this kind of energy signature before. Vareth leaned forward, his mandibles clicking nervously. Fire! Now! The Dominion's opening volley lit up the void. Beams of light crossed the stars, missiles streaked through space, and plasma shells glowed like miniature suns. The human fleet disappeared behind a storm of weapons. The aliens watched in satisfaction as explosions filled the void, but then the smoke cleared. Every human ship was still there. Not a single one had fallen. Their shields, if that's what they were, had absorbed everything. The glowing lines on their hulls pulsed brighter now, almost alive, and then they fired back. The first human volley was like nothing the Dominion had ever seen. Massive rail slugs, each the size of a transport ship, tore through alien cruisers. In seconds, missiles with intelligent warheads weaved through defenses, striking weak points with perfect accuracy. The glowing energy lances cut through battleships as if they were made of paper. Whole squadrons vanished in the first minute. Ships didn't just explode, they were sliced apart, broken into silent, drifting wreckage. Vareth's eyes widened. "Evasive maneuvers! All ships scatter!" But it was too late. The human fleet moved like predators, chasing down fleeing ships one by one. On the bridge of Orion's Wrath, Admiral Kale gave his next order. "Initiate burn protocol." The humans unleashed their final weapon, a wave of burning plasma that swept across the battlefield. Alien ships caught in its path melted in seconds, their hulls collapsing in molten streams. The stars themselves seemed to turn red with fire. The Dominion Armada was being erased. Back on Zerath Glory, alarms screamed. Half the crew was gone, sucked into the void. Fires raged through the corridors. Vareth clutched the command rail, staring at the human flagship through the viewport. This is only one fleet," he whispered. A nearby officer, trembling, replied, "Sir, our scouts say Earth has more. 10 more." The words hit Vareth harder than any weapon. 10 more fleets like this? It was unthinkable. The battle didn't last much longer. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed. The human fleet never slowed, never spoke, never showed mercy. Within 30 minutes, the mighty First Assault Armada, undefeated for centuries, was gone. Only a few escape pods drifted away, carrying the lucky few who had survived. Admiral Kale stood on his bridge, watching the wreckage float in silence. "Message to Earth Command," he said calmly. "Sector secure. Proceed with..." Phase 2. The human fleet turned away from the battlefield, vanishing into the darkness of space as quickly as it had arrived. Far away, in the Zerath Dominion capital, the surviving officers reported what they had seen. The alien leaders listened in stunned silence. One fleet had destroyed their greatest armada without a single loss. And now, there were rumors that Earth had 10 more fleets waiting. No one in the council spoke for a long time. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, the Emperor said, "If they send more, we are finished." The word spread through the halls of power, through the military, through the streets. And for the first time in living memory, the mighty Zerath Dominion felt something they had never felt before: fear. The council chamber of the Zerath Dominion was vast, built from black stone and shining gold. It floated above the capital city like a crown, its long windows opening to the endless void of space. Normally, this place was filled with the confident voices of leaders who had ruled for centuries. But today, there was only silence. At the center of the chamber, a massive hollow screen flickered to life. The image was taken from the few surviving escape pods. It showed the human fleet, dark and monstrous, moving through the stars. The video showed the moment when the alien armada opened fire with everything they had, and the humans simply kept advancing, untouched. Then came the counterattack, weapons tearing through battleships in seconds, plasma waves turning the void into fire. The council members watched the destruction in stunned horror. Some looked away. Others gripped the arms of their seats so tightly their claws dug into the metal. When the footage ended, no one spoke. The silence was heavy, as if the air itself had turned solid. Finally, one of the older counselors leaned forward. His voice was dry and shaking. "If they send more, we are finished." The words hung in the air. No one argued. No one laughed. At the far end of the table, General Kovar, commander of the Dominion's planetary defenses, broke the silence. We underestimated them. One fleet destroyed our first assault armada in less than an hour. They have technology. We do not understand. Our weapons could not break their shields. Another counselor hissed, "You mean to tell me they are stronger than us? That a young species can defeat the Zarath Dominion?" Kovar's mandibles twitched. "I am not telling you they can. I am telling you they did." Whispers spread across the chamber. Some members demanded immediate retaliation. Others spoke of peace negotiations. But every voice carried the same undercurrent: fear. A tall, cold-eyed figure in royal armor rose from his seat. This was Emperor Vral, ruler of the Dominion for over 2 centuries. He looked around at his council, his voice low and dangerous. "Reports say this was one fleet," he said. "Just one. How many do they have?" The room went silent again. Then the intelligence minister stepped forward. "Your Majesty, our deep space scouts have found evidence of more. Many more. Our estimates suggest 10 fleets of equal or greater strength." Gasps and murmurs echoed through the chamber. One counselor slammed his fist on the table. 10 fleets? That is impossible. No civilization can build that many ships of such power." The minister's voice remained calm. "And yet, here we are." The Emperor turned to Kovar. "Can our fleets hold against them?" Kovar hesitated. "Not as we are. Our defenses were designed for the wars we have fought before. These humans fight differently. Their tactics are fast, precise, and merciless. They waste no time. They leave no survivors." A nervous counselor spoke up. Perhaps we should send an envoy, offer peace. An alliance." Another laughed bitterly. "Peace? Did you not see the recording? They will not talk. They will not listen. They came for war, and they came prepared." The debate raged for hours, voices rising and falling, threats and warnings traded like weapons. But beneath all the shouting was the same unspoken truth. No one truly believed they could win. At last, the Emperor raised his hand for silence. His gaze swept across the room. "We will not surrender," he said. "We are the Zarath Dominion. We will fight. But we must know everything about these humans, every ship, every weapon, every weakness. Find it. And if you cannot find it, create it." His voice grew cold. "If one fleet could do this, imagine what 10 could do." Far from the council chamber, deep in the shadowed streets of the capital, secret orders were already being given. A spy was to be sent to Earth. His mission, to learn the truth about these fleets, and to discover if there was any way, any at all, to stop them. He would go alone. He would not return unless he had answers. And above the capital, high in the black sky, the stars seemed quieter than usual, as if they, too, were waiting for the next human move. The rain fell hard on the steel streets of the Zarath Dominions. Capital. Neon lights reflected on the wet ground, casting long shadows between the towering buildings. A single figure moved quickly through the darkness, avoiding the light, his long coat pulled tight against the cold wind. His name was Kethrin Voss, a ghost to most, a whisper to some. He was the Dominion's best spy. He had entered enemy fortresses without being seen, stolen technology from rival empires, and assassinated generals in their sleep. But tonight, he had been given the most dangerous mission of his life. He was to go to Earth, not to fight, not to kill, but to watch, to listen, to learn. He was to discover the truth about the human fleets, how many there were, what weapons they had, and, if the gods allowed it, how to destroy them. From the moment he accepted the mission, Kethrin knew it was close to suicide. The humans had just destroyed the first assault armada without losing a single ship. If they caught him spying, he wouldn't be imprisoned. he would vanish. But Catherine was not afraid of death. He was afraid of failing. 3 nights later, a small, cloaked shuttle left the Dominion capital. Officially, it was heading to a neutral trade station. Unofficially, its flight path had been altered mid-journey, sending it deep into human-controlled space. The journey was long, crossing empty star systems where no ships traveled. The silence was constant, broken only by the hum of the shuttle's engines. Catherine sat alone in the cockpit, his eyes scanning the nav display. Finally, after weeks in the void, a massive shape appeared on the edge of the screen. Nova Prime, the largest human space station in known space. It was not like the fragile, thin designs of alien stations. This one looked like a fortress, a city wrapped in steel and guns, hanging in orbit above a blue-green planet. Even from far away, Catherine could see the movement of enormous warships docking and departing. They were sleek and black, with armor. That seemed to swallow the light. The sight made his stomach tighten. Slipping past the station's patrols was the first test. The humans had layered defenses, drones, scanners, automated turrets. But Catherine's ship was wrapped in advanced stealth tech, stolen from another empire long ago. It made him invisible to most sensors, at least for a while. He docked at one of the civilian bays, blending in with merchant ships and passenger craft. From there, he walked through the docking gates into Nova Prime itself. The station was huge inside, filled with bright corridors, crowded markets, and the constant sound of footsteps on metal floors. People of many species walked here, trading goods, drinking in bars, arguing in shops. Catherine kept his head low and his hood up. The fewer people who saw his face, the better. For 2 days, he explored quietly. He memorized the layout. Where the docking bays were, where the power cores were hidden, where the security posts were stationed. But he still had not found what he came for, proof of more human fleets. On the 3rd day, he found it. It was a place called Docking Ring 7, a restricted zone guarded by soldiers in black armor. From a shadowed balcony above, Catherine watched as massive hangar doors opened, and inside he saw them, rows upon rows of human warships, larger and more advanced than the ones he had seen in the battle footage. Some were still under construction, their hulls covered in scaffolding and work lights. Others were already complete, their weapons gleaming under the hangar lights. He counted quickly. There were enough ships here to form at least 3 full fleets, and this was only one docking ring. His heart pounded. If this was just one part of one station, how many fleets were the humans hiding? Then he saw something that froze him where he stood. At the far end of the hangar, a new type of ship was being assembled. Its design was different, sharper, heavier, and humming with strange energy. It looked like a predator built for one purpose only: annihilation. The workers nearby called it Fleet Tempest. Catherine recorded everything with his hidden scanner. This was the proof the Dominion needed. But as he turned to leave, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. 2 human soldiers were standing at the end of the corridor, looking directly at him. For a moment, no one moved. The soldiers' faces were unreadable under their visors. Then one of them touched his wrist comm and spoke in a flat voice. "We've got him." Catherine ran. He bolted down the metal walkway, shoving through crowds, turning into side passages. Behind him, the pounding footsteps of the soldiers grew louder. Red alarms began flashing across the station. A mechanical voice echoed through the halls. "Security breach! Sector 7 lockdown initiated." He had been made. Catherine knew he couldn't reach his ship, not with the station locking down. Instead, he dove into the maintenance tunnels. Dark, narrow passages that twisted through the guts of Nova Prime. Steam hissed from broken pipes, and the air smelled of oil and metal. He moved fast, but the humans moved faster. Their armor was heavy, but they didn't slow down. They didn't tire. It was like being hunted by machines. Finally, he reached an air vent overlooking a civilian transport bay. If he could slip onto one of those ships, he could escape unnoticed. He was about to drop down when a shadow moved behind him. Cold metal. Pressed against the side of his head, a voice spoke quietly. "You've seen too much." And then, nothing but darkness. The galaxy's trade lanes were busy that week. Freighters carried food and metals. Passenger ships carried travelers and merchants. Patrol ships kept the routes safe. To any observer, it looked like nothing unusual was happening, but far beyond. Those public routes, in the deep and empty black between the stars. Something was moving. Something silent. Something deadly. Admiral Kale stood in the dim light of the Orion's wrath, his hands behind his back, looking out at the endless void. Around his flagship, dozens of other human warships floated in formation, their black hulls blending into space like shadows. The fleet was running cold, no active sensors, no communication bursts, no bright engine flares. To any scanner, they were invisible. "Status?" Kale asked without turning. "Phase 2 is ready, sir," his tactical officer replied. "All fleets are in position." Kale's eyes narrowed. "And the Dominion?" "They believe we are retreating to defend our own borders. Their fleets are repositioning away from the outer rim." A small, cold smile touched Kale's lips. "Good. Let them think we are hiding." What the Zarath Dominion did not know was that the humans had been planning this war for years. Long before the first fleet appeared, Earth had been building its strength in secret. 10 fleets, each with its own flagship, each hidden in a different part of space. The Orion fleet was only the beginning. Now, those other fleets were moving, sliding silently through hyperspace, emerging in places the Dominion never expected. Their orders were clear. No broadcasts, no warnings. Strike without mercy. In the Dominion capital, the Council still argued about the first battle. Some leaders believed the humans would stop after proving their strength. Others believed an invasion was coming. None of them knew that human ships were already deep inside their territory. On a distant listening post near the border, a sleepy alien technician noticed a faint sensor flicker. A ghost reading. It looked like a ship, but it was too faint to track. He logged it and ignored it. Hours later, that listening post was nothing but molten wreckage drifting in the void. Fleet Tempest, the newest and most advanced of Earth's armadas, was among the first to move. Its flagship, Stormbreaker, was armed with weapons even the rest of the galaxy hadn't seen. It could shut down enemy engines from thousands of kilometers away, leaving warships helpless before being torn apart. The Dominion had no idea it existed. On the Stormbreaker, Captain Lyra Hale stood beside her crew in the war room. The hollow table before them showed the star map of the Zarath Dominion's outer colonies. Each one was marked in red. "We hit them here, here, and here," Lyra said, pointing to 3 planets along a vital supply chain. "No survivors. No signals out. We make them think the systems went dark by accident." Her first officer raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we don't announce ourselves?" "Not yet," Lyra replied. "Fear grows faster in silence." Back on the Orions, Wrath, Admiral Kale received a secure transmission from the Stormbreaker. It was short and to the point. Target 1, neutralized. Kale's expression didn't change. "Good, begin the sweep." One by one, the other fleets reported the same. Small Dominion garrisons vanished. Outposts stopped transmitting. Merchant. Convoys disappeared in deep space. At first, the Dominion thought it was pirates. Then they thought it was rebels. Only the highest commanders began to suspect the truth, that the humans were already inside their borders. Weeks passed. The Dominion sent scouts to investigate the missing systems. None returned. Panic began to whisper through their lower ranks. Soldiers heard rumors of black ships that appeared from nowhere, destroyed everything in minutes, and vanished again without a trace. They called them ghost fleets. The council tried to silence the rumors, but the fear was spreading too, quickly. And while the Dominion was trying to understand what was happening, the trap was already closing. In the darkness of deep space, the 10 human fleets converged on their next targets: major Dominion defense worlds, shipyards, and capital class. Starports. They would all strike at once, and when they did, the Dominion would finally understand that the First Fleet was never the real threat. The Dominion outpost Draco 7 was quiet that night. It floated above a dusty red planet on the edge of Zerath territory, far from the capital. Life here was slow. Patrols came and went, freighters docked for supplies, and the crew complained about the endless desert below. Lieutenant Merrick sat in the control tower, sipping his hot drink and staring at the stars. It was the same view he had seen every night for 3 years. But tonight, something was different. At first, he thought it was nothing, just a few bright points in the distance. But then he noticed something strange. The points weren't stars. They were moving, and they were moving fast. He frowned and adjusted the station's scanners. The display came alive with readings. His drink slipped from his hands, spilling across the console. "Commander," he called, his voice tight. "You need to see this." Within minutes, the entire outpost was on alert. The approaching objects were ships, many ships, dozens, hundreds. Their size and heat signatures matched only one known source: human warships. The outpost commander's voice shook as he gave the order. "Send the warning to Central Command. All defense batteries online. This is not a drill." The crews scrambled to their stations. Massive planetary cannons rose from the surface, locking on to the incoming fleet. Fighter squadrons launched into the black sky. The garrison believed they could hold out. After all, Draco 7 was heavily fortified, designed to withstand an attack from any enemy, but they had never faced Fleet Tempest. The first human ships broke through the void like black blades cutting through cloth. The Stormbreaker, Fleet Tempest's flagship, led the charge. It didn't slow down. It didn't send warnings. It simply fired. The opening salvo was devastating. Electromagnetic pulses shut down the planetary cannons before they could fire a single shot. Fighters dropped from the sky as their engines died mid-flight. The outpost's shields flickered, then collapsed entirely under a precision barrage of railgun slugs. In less than 2 minutes, the defenders' strongest weapons were gone. Captain Lyra Hale stood on the Stormbreaker's bridge, her voice calm, as she gave the next command: "Target their command center, no escape." The Stormbreaker's main gun, a massive particle cannon, charged with a low, rising hum. A bright blue beam tore across space, striking the heart of Draco 7. The station's control tower exploded in a burst of fire and metal. Pieces of it rained down into the planet's thin atmosphere. Without leadership, the remaining defenders scattered. Human warships hunted them down with surgical precision, each kill clean and quick. In the space of 10 minutes, Dracos 7 was silent. From orbit, the surface looked scorched and broken. The once busy station was now a drifting wreck, its lights dark. Fleet Tempest moved on without hesitation, leaving nothing alive that could send a warning. But this was not the only strike that day. Across the galaxy, in 9 other locations, the same thing was happening. On the industrial world of Venara Prime, the Orion's Wrath and its sister ships shattered the planet's shipyards before the Dominion fleet could even scramble. On the icy mining moon of Rethan 4, Fleet Hammerfall dropped kinetic rods from orbit, splitting the surface into burning chasms. On the fortress world of Calvex, Fleet Revenant slipped past defenses using stealth technology, appearing in the atmosphere without warning and erasing the capital in a single plasma barrage. Each strike was swift, Each strike was final. The Dominion Command received 10 emergency distress calls in the same hour, and then silence. Entire worlds had gone dark. At first, the Council thought it was impossible. No enemy could coordinate such perfect simultaneous attacks. But then the reports came in from surviving civilian witnesses. They were human ships, all of them. In the Orion's Wrath's war room, Admiral Kale listened as the fleet commanders reported their victories. One by one, the voices came through. The comms, target neutralized. Colony destroyed. Resistance minimal. When the last report ended, Kale simply said, "Good. Begin Phase 3. No celebration, no speeches. Just the next step in a war the humans had already decided they would win. By the time the Dominion realized what was happening, it was too late. 10 human fleets were inside their borders, moving from target to target like wolves tearing through a herd. And the worst part? No one knew where they would strike next. The Dominion had never known fear like this. For centuries, they had been the hunters, their fleets conquering world after world, their armies marching across the galaxy without challenge. But now, they were the prey. News spread like wildfire, carried by desperate refugee ships and broken military transmissions. 10 worlds had fallen in a single day. Entire planets burned without warning. Entire fleets vanished without firing a shot. And every witness told the same story. The attackers were human warships. The Dominion's high command gathered in the capital's grand war chamber. Massive holograms of the galaxy lit the room, red markers spreading across their territory like a plague. "They're not moving like any fleet we've ever fought," one strategist said, his voice shaking. "They appear, strike, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. They're hitting supply lines, fuel depots, shipyards," another officer added. "It's not just destruction. They're cutting us apart piece by piece." The Supreme Overseer slammed his fist on the table. "Mobilize everything, every fleet, every soldier, every weapon. If humans want war, we will drown them in it." But even as the orders were given, it was already too late. On the far edge of Dominion space, Fleet Tempest appeared above the industrial moon of Telran. The defenses were formidable. Orbital fortresses, minefields, and a fleet of 60 warships. But to the humans, it was just another target. From the Stormbreaker's bridge, Captain Lyra Hale watched the battle unfold like a surgeon at work. EMP bursts crippled the orbital fortresses in seconds. Swarms of drone fighters darted between enemy ships, planting explosive charges before retreating at impossible speed. Within minutes, the Dominion fleet was nothing but wreckage. The humans didn't even slow down to loot the remains. They were already jumping to their next target. In the core sectors, the panic was worse. Civilian worlds were evacuating at record speed, but the refugee convoys often never made it. Human stealth ships prowled the trade routes, disabling transports and leaving them adrift. The survivors told haunting stories of faceless black ships that appeared out of nowhere, struck without a word, and disappeared into the void. One Dominion senator made a speech on the Capitol broadcast, declaring that the humans would be stopped. Moments later, the broadcast was cut short, because the station he was on had just been destroyed by an orbital strike. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were controlling the story of the war. Every victory was precise. Every attack sent a message. "We can reach you anywhere. We can kill you anytime. You cannot stop us." Admiral Kale sat in the Orion's Wrath's war room, surrounded by his fleet commanders. The galaxy map before them was littered with red enemy worlds, each one blinking as a target. "Phase 3 is almost complete," Kyle said. "The Dominion's outer defenses are gone. Their fleets are scattered. Their people are afraid." Captain Hale's voice came through the comms. "And what's Phase 4? Kale's eyes were cold as he replied, "We burn their heart." That night, the Dominion's capital world, Carvos Prime, received its first warning in the form of a wrecked cruiser drifting into orbit. Its hull was scorched with 3 words, burned deep by plasma fire. "We are coming!" The Dominion capital, Carvos Prime, had never been attacked in its entire history. The city spires reached so high into the clouds that their tips vanished into the mist. Their defense network was the pride of the galaxy. Orbital cannons, planetary shields, fleets patrolling every entry point into the system. Generations of leaders had called it unbreakable, but the people of Carvos woke that morning to a sky full of fire. Without warning, the human fleet tore into the system. They did not come slowly. They did not send scouts. They arrived in full force, 10 massive warships, each the size of a city, and hundreds of smaller strike craft that poured from their hangars like swarms of steel insects. The Dominion home, fleet scrambled to intercept. War alarms screamed through the streets. Civilians ran for the bunkers as the first explosions shook the ground. Orbital cannons fired, but their blasts were intercepted by human energy shields. The planetary defense grid tried to lock onto targets, but the human ships moved too fast, striking from angles that the Dominion's targeting systems had never been designed to handle. From the bridge of the Orion's Wrath, Admiral Kale gave the order in a calm voice. "All ships, burn it." The first volley hit the capital's outer defenses. Towers of plasma fire erupted into the sky, shattering shield generators. Human rail guns hammered through orbital stations, splitting them apart in seconds. Fighters darted in and out of the chaos, planting charges on key structures before disappearing. Again. In the streets below, the people of Carvos saw their own military burning in the sky. Their once proud fleets were nothing but falling wreckage now, crashing into the oceans and mountains. The screams of the city mixed with the roar of warships passing overhead. The Dominion's supreme overseer stood in his palace, watching the attack through the massive crystal windows. His advisors begged him to evacuate, but he refused. "This is our world," he growled. "They will not take it." He was wrong. The Stormbreaker, Captain Hale's ship, punched through the last defense wall and descended into low orbit. Its cannons focused on the palace itself. With one blinding strike, the central tower exploded, sending shockwaves through the capital. The Overseer's command center was gone in seconds. Across the planet, Dominion soldiers began to lay down their weapons. Their communications were jammed, their leaders dead, and their fleets destroyed. Humanity did not stop to occupy the planet. They weren't here to rule. They were here to send a message. As the fleet pulled away, Carvos Prime burned. Entire sectors of the city were in flames, black smoke rising into the atmosphere. The humans left only one thing behind: a massive holographic projection in the sky, visible to the entire planet. It showed Earth's flag, and beneath it, words in the Dominion language. "This is only the beginning." The galaxy thought the war was over. They thought humanity's attack on Carvos Prime was the final blow, a strike of revenge, a warning, and then silence. Many alien leaders told themselves that humans would now retreat, satisfied with their victory. They were wrong. Weeks after the burning of the Dominion capital, strange signals began to appear across deep space. Unknown energy surges, encrypted transmissions. Then, in every sector of the galaxy, human scouts were seen, not retreating, but marking targets. In the cold emptiness of the Sol system, Earth's shipyards came alive. Massive dry docks opened like steel flowers, releasing the shapes that had been hidden for years. 10 colossal fleets, each larger than the one that had destroyed the Dominion home world, slowly emerged into the starlight. They were not just warships. They were city-sized engines of war, with armor so thick it could survive a direct starship collision, and weapons powerful enough to crack planets. Their hulls shimmered with a strange new alloy, the product of human engineers who had taken alien technology and turned it into something far more dangerous: From the command bridge of the Orion's Wrath, Admiral Kyle watched the fleet formations assemble. 10 fleets, hundreds of dreadnoughts, thousands of cruisers, tens of thousands of fighters. It was not a defensive force. It was an unstoppable invasion armada. "This is the end of hesitation," Kale said to his officers. "No more warnings! No more mercy!" Across the galaxy, alien empires panicked. The Dominion, shattered and leaderless, could only watch in fear. The Zalith Combine fortified their border worlds. The Veil Syndicate moved their capitals to hidden systems, and the Neutral Council worlds broadcast desperate pleas for peace. The humans ignored them all. When the 10 fleets jumped into hyperspace, the galaxy's skies began to darken. One by one, human warships appeared above alien homeworlds, their shadows blotting out the suns. Entire fleets surrendered without firing a shot. Those who resisted were reduced to burning debris in minutes. Planets that had once mocked Earth now sent envoys on their knees, begging for survival. Cities that had called humanity primitive now saw their skies filled with the thunder of human engines, and still the 10 fleets pressed on. From the edge of known space to the galactic core, humanity's banner was raised, not with speeches, not with treaties, but with fire. Every alien race now knew the truth. The one fleet that had terrified them before was nothing compared to what Earth truly held in reserve. In the last broadcast of the war, the galaxy heard Admiral Kale's voice. "The age of fear is over. The age of humanity has begun." The transmission ended. The galaxy fell silent. The war had changed everything. Alien maps, once filled with powerful empires, were now covered in black marks. Worlds destroyed, fleets erased, capitals gone. But what frightened the galaxy most was not the destruction humans had caused. It was the fact that they had done it with only a fraction of their true force. The 10 fleets spread out like a tidal wave, swallowing entire sectors in days. Some planets surrendered instantly. Others tried to fight and were wiped out before their distress signals even reached nearby systems. It was as if humanity had mastered war itself. But beneath the chaos, something else was happening. Strange shadows began to appear in deep space. Unmarked ships, larger than dreadnoughts, moving silently between stars. They carried no banners, no signals, no records in any database. Even human commanders refused to speak about them. Rumors spread across alien networks. These are not warships. They are something worse. On the bridge of the Orion's Wrath, Admiral Kale received encrypted reports. These ghost ships were operating far ahead of the main fleets, erasing targets before the official attacks even began. Enemy fleets simply vanished without a trace. Planets woke to find their defense systems offline, their leaders gone, their armies disarmed, all before human fleets even arrived. It was a different kind of warfare, not loud, not public, silent and absolute. In the Zalith Combine, panic turned into terror when their high command disappeared overnight. No explosions, no battles, just gone. Their worlds fell like dominoes, one after another. Some alien leaders believed these shadow ships were not human at all, but ancient machines awakened by the chaos. Others insisted they were a secret human weapon, something even more advanced than the 10 fleets. Kale never confirmed the truth. He simply watched the reports come in and gave one order: let the shadows clear the path. We will follow with fire. Soon, even the strongest alien strongholds began to crumble without resistance. Skies grew dark, not from battle, but from the looming fear that no defense mattered anymore. For the first time in galactic history, the stars themselves seemed unsafe. And every race now understood a chilling truth. Humanity's greatest weapons might still be hidden in the dark. The galaxy was no longer just afraid of human fleets. They were afraid of what might be coming next. The galaxy thought it had seen the worst. 10 human fleets had burned through empires, shattered armadas, and broken the will of ancient rulers. But the shadows that moved ahead of them, the unmarked ships, were different. They killed silently, without warning, without mercy. No one knew where they came from. No one had ever captured one. No wreckage was ever found. Alien leaders whispered that maybe they weren't even human. Maybe they were something older, something humanity had simply learned to control. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Orion's Wrath, watching the deep space holomap. A cluster of signals blinked into existence on the outer rim. They were enormous, bigger than any battleship, bigger than any dreadnought. Their outlines were strange, almost organic, like living things shaped into metal. "Confirm identification," Kyle ordered. The sensor officer's voice shook. "Sir, these aren't part of the 10 fleets. These are the Leviathans." That name was not in any public record. It was a classified ghost, a project so secret even most human commanders believed it was a myth. The Leviathans were warships built in the dark, beyond the edges of known space. They were the size of moons, powered by cores that could rip apart entire star systems. And unlike the 10 fleets, they were not designed for occupation or diplomacy. They were built for one purpose only: erasure. As the Leviathans moved, entire sectors fell silent. Alien fleets sent to intercept them simply vanished from scanners. Communication relays went dark. Planets with populations in the billions went completely quiet within hours. In the Zorath Dominion, their ruling council watched the feeds in horror. First, the lights on their border worlds went out. Then the ones deeper in. Finally, their capital stopped broadcasting altogether. No explosions, no distress calls, just a creeping blackness across the stars. The truth began to spread through the galaxy like a sickness. The 10 fleets were not humanity's strongest weapon. They were only the opening act. The real war had only just begun. Kale turned away from the map, his face cold. "Inform command," he said. "The Leviathans have entered the field." No one dared to speak. The crew knew what it meant. There would be no more battles, only endings. And in the silent corners of the galaxy, where no one dared to look, the Leviathans kept moving. Closer, closer, until the shadows swallowed everything. The galaxy was on the edge of collapse. World after world had gone silent under the shadow of the Leviathans. Armadas that once ruled entire sectors were now drifting wreckage in empty space. Yet, deep in the hidden chambers of the Galactic Council, a desperate plan was born. They called it Operation Eclipse. Every surviving empire, no matter how much they hated each other, gathered what was left of their fleets. The Korth, the Vera, the Shalarin, even the Zorath survivors, all sent their last warships. In total, they had more than 1 million vessels, armed with weapons that could split moons and burn atmospheres. It was the largest fleet in recorded history, a force meant to crush even the strongest enemy. Their target was simple: destroy the Leviathans before they reached the core worlds. Admiral Varel of the Korth stood before the fleet on a massive holo broadcast. His voice shook with both fear and pride. "This is our final stand. If we fall here, there will be no one left to remember us. Fire everything you have. Do not stop until the Leviathans are gone." The battle began in a storm of light. Millions of missiles, plasma bolts, and energy beams tore through the void. The first Leviathan took the full impact of the galaxy's fury. For a brief moment, hope sparked in the hearts of the attackers. Its armor cracked, fire spilled from its sides. But then the Leviathan moved. Its hull shifted like a living thing, sealing wounds, reabsorbing the damage. It fired once, a single beam of white light. and an entire armada of 30,000 ships disintegrated into nothing but glowing dust. The shockwave crippled thousands more. Panic spread instantly. Fleets tried to retreat, but hyperspace jump points collapsed. As the Leviathans activated strange gravity-warping fields, the galaxy's greatest war fleet was trapped like insects in a jar. Within hours, Operation Eclipse became a massacre. No one could escape. No one could hide. The last brave transmissions from the Allied ships carried only 3 words before. The silence returned. They are unstoppable. And as the Leviathans continued their slow, unstoppable approach toward the core worlds, one thing became clear. This was not just the end of a war. This was the end of an era. The galaxy was silent. The Leviathans drifted through the ruins of fleets and planets, their massive forms blocking starlight wherever they passed. Entire civilizations had been erased, their histories reduced to cold, wreckage floating in the dark. In the deepest chamber of the galactic core, the last council members waited for the end. They had heard the Leviathans were approaching, but no one expected what happened next. The colossal warships halted. A signal was transmitted, not in any alien language, but in old human standard. The council chamber trembled as a voice, deep and steady, filled the air. This is Admiral Kale Voss of the United Terran Command. The Leviathans have done their work. The war is over. The council leader, an ancient Vera, shook with both anger and fear. You control them? You destroyed billions. Why? The human's reply was cold and calm. When you attacked Earth, you believed we were weak. You burned our colonies, enslaved our people, and laughed when our fleets fell. You thought, one fleet breaking your courage was our limit. You were wrong. That was the warning. 10 Leviathans was the answer. The room was filled with silence, except for the slow, mechanical hum of the Leviathans waiting outside the core. This was not conquest, Kale Voss continued. This was correction. The galaxy was a place of predators who preyed on the weak. Now it will be rebuilt under a single law, humanity's law. There will be no more empires, no more slavers, no more endless wars. From this day forward, the galaxy belongs to all, under our watch. The council leader tried to protest, but the human's voice grew sharp. You had your chance. You wasted it. Now you will live or fall by our rules. The transmission ended. The Leviathans turned away, spreading across the galaxy like silent guardians. Worlds that feared them now realized the truth. They were weapons, yes, but they were also shields. Under humanity's control, the galaxy would never be the same again. And so, history recorded the moment not as the day of humanity's victory, but as the day humanity took the galaxy's throne without ever needing to sit on it.